Chairman of the Ogun State Independent Electoral Commission, Babatunde Osibodu, says the commission has budgeted over 2 billion naira for the conduct of the November 16th council poll in the state. Osibodu said the commission planned over 1 billion naira for transportation on the election day, while more than 200 million naira will be spent to print the voter register from the Independent National Electoral Commission. He spoke on Tuesday in Abeokuta while featuring on the Media Parliament, an interactive program organized by the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Ogun Council. The chairman blamed the humongous budget on constant fuel price hike, saying the commission had reviewed its proposal for at least 6 times. He explained that the voter register cost the electoral body 15 million naira to print during the last council poll held in 2021, saying it will now cost over 200 million naira to print the same register for the 2024 election. The chairman said election day transportation bill, which was 200 million in 2021, will now go up to over 1 billion naira. He said he could not give the exact amount the election process will cost his commission, but the current budget is over 2 billion naira. Osibodu said 70 million naira has been generated by the commission through the charges collected from all the candidates. He described the amount as a drop in the ocean compared to the funds needed to conduct election. The chairman said 8 political parties will be participating in the November 16 election, out of which only 2 have submitted candidates for all the chairmanship and councillorship seats. Meanwhile, Osibodu said has admitted that the state electoral commissions need reforms for optimal performance and conduct of credible elections. He said necessary reforms are the best options rather than the agitation for the transfer of the conduct of local government elections to the Independent Electoral Commission. Osibodu explained that while INEC struggles with the workload saddled on it, the local government elections will become a burden to it. He spoke during the same media parliament organized by the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Ogun State Council, held at the council secretariat in Abeokuta on Tuesday. Recalling the controversy surrounding the recently concluded Edo State elections, the chairman insisted that a devolution of power to the federating state was preferable to centralization. He said, "We do not want to go back to centralizing everything. We need to devolve powers to the federating state. We saw what happened in the Edo elections. I am not saying whether the right or the wrong person won, but we have seen the controversy that trailed the elections. Even with the controversy that trailed the 2023 elections, many people already said that INEC itself should be unbundled, that there is too much heavy load on it, and you now want to burden it with local government elections when it is still struggling with the one that it has been saddled with." He acknowledged that the local government election in itself are not flawless and emphasized the need for reform in a number of areas. He said, "The bathwater may be dirty, but the baby should not be thrown out with it. We can clean up the baby and make sure it looks better and feels better. We can reform the electoral system. I will be the first to admit that it is not perfect. And I will be the first to admit that there are several areas where we need reforms, and those reforms are possible. But I will not say local government elections should go back to INEC." Ugochukwu, 2 issues here. First is the 2 billion naira budget for local government elections in Ogun State. And then the second issue raised by the OGSIEC chairman is why transfer CX to INEC? Why should INEC conduct local government election when INEC itself needs to be unbundled? I mean, why not push for reform of the CX? 2 different issues, 1 story. What do you have to say to that?
In the first leg of the story, what caught my attention, it's that 8 political parties have shown interest to vie in the Ondo State or Ogun State
local government
elections. And then I want to congratulate the other parties. I think we have about 18 or 19 political parties in Nigeria. So I want to congratulate the other political parties that have not shown interest, you know, and because with what we are seeing in the conduct of local government elections so far, case study Rivers State, where I'm domiciled. So there will be no need for a political party to, you know, drag the struggling average Nigerian politician at the local level to be spending the money or going about borrowing, running for campaign of an election. You know that at the end of the day, you will not even, the results might not even be announced. So I say kudos to those political parties in Ogun State for towing the line of wisdom. Then from the expose that the Ogun State Electoral Commission Chairman has made public, I want to ask a rhetorical question. If they spend such a money to print, or if there are monies to be paid to INEC for the voter register to be printed, I want to ask that in Rivers State, that said they got the authentic register from INEC, how much did they pay? Was there a receipt where Rivers people told that certain amounts are being paid? Like as this year now, it will go about 1 billion or 200 million to print it, while in 2021 it was around 15 million. But this year, given the rise cost and the evolving economic realities, it is going to engulf around 200 million. So this raises a critical question in other states as to how much they made available to INEC, or how much did their
what was the budget of the
budgets in order to capture this printing. It raises a very penitent question. So, and now we have already known that such things exist. INEC is not, after all, a Father Christmas, because you know the amount and the volume of papers that are involved, you know, so, and the remedial procedures and all that. So now he's now saying even the 2 billion they are dancing around is not even visible, that it is going to, you know, it is going to be enough to conduct so election. So if I may say, if this particular elections is not happening because the federal government and because of this Supreme Court judgment, that they are now being coerced and they are now being mandated and being held to the jugular to now conduct such an election. You know, to conduct such an election, you find out that OGSIEC that is spending about 2 billion naira, the OGSIEC that is spending about 2 billion, was it captured in their budget for the lifetime of 2024, as they have postponed it about 6 times? So was the money captured? And if it were captured, the Rivers State budget, that is about the Rivers State proposed budget for 2024, that was around 800 plus billion naira, we were not told that there was a money earmarked for the conduct of the elections. But look at a state that is working, is telling Nigerians that we have made our findings and we are finding out that to conduct these elections, it is going to gulp such amount of money. And if not that the federal government is now taking it as a priority in order to make sure that these local elections are conducted, for there to be 3 tiers of government in Nigeria. I would say that if states are not really ready for the elections, if they are not really ready for the elections, because of the amount of money we are talking about, that is, we go into frivolities, because we know at the end of the day, the governors will still appoint their star boys and paint it to our faces that they have conducted an election, which we saw in so many states, as has been alluded by the Senate, that it had been a sham all through. It had been a sham. It had been just an extension of appointments, because names are known before the elections are conducted, and they look at elections that will be conducted. There is no blow-to-blow announcement of results. There's no blow-to-blow announcement of how the parties fared and how many parties actually participated. Ogun State is even charitable to tell us that only 8 political parties have declared interest. But in other states, how many states participated? How did they fare? What were the void votes and the number of votes for which those who emerged? So the second leg of it is talking about the second leg of what he had, that why transferring the CX to INEC. If you ask me, I think what we had from the feelers available to us was that there will be another body to local government electoral commission being domiciled with the federal government. And my worries are this.
It's not yet fixed.
I know, but they were...
No, they said,
okay.
The National Assembly was saying that CX will possibly be scrapped, and then either INEC takes over the duties of the CX, or a different body, the local government electoral commission, will be formed, but it will now be under the federal government. Yes, it will not be under. So there is a possibility that it will be still INEC.
Okay, for now.
Probably it might not be the local government electoral body. Okay. So the Senate, the House of the National Assembly are still dilly-dallying on that. Yes.
So if we go by some of the elections, even the recently concluded the off-season Edo State elections. Edo State elections that we just saw. It was nothing near perfect. It was nothing near perfect, just a particular state, and with the militarization and all the monies that were earmarked, and INEC had a lot of concentration on Edo State. At the end of the day, the shortfalls are even more than the percentage you could give INEC for a job well done. You know, we had civil society organizations, different bodies that monitored the election, almost came out with the same report. So if you're now moving the CX to the national body under INEC, I don't think is the best solution, because, like I've said when this issue came, we have a lot of infractions and a lot of interest we play out. The governor who controls the state might not be from the ruling party. The ministers that are appointed are from the ruling party at the center. You have minister for the head minister, and have minister for states. You have ambassadors. You have senators and House of Representatives member who will be, angling to, make political statements by making sure they influence who emerges in their different local governments, and which in turn will overheat the polity at the local level. Because this is Nigeria, let us not shy away from these truths. Where you see seemingly bloodless and less ruthless and carry-go local government elections, is because the state executives take charge and they dictate the pace of the piper. But if you allow it, it will definitely go so sour in Nigeria that local government elections will become a fight for balkanization of local governments. And at the end of the day, the anticipated democracy dividends, that is the yardstick for which the federal government and the National Assembly and the Supreme Court has made this particular pronouncement will be lost at the end of the day. So I go with him.
When you say that, so far, have you seen states, local government polls so far being free and fair? You said yourself, you used Rivers State to cite an example, and you said yourself,
Yes.
that the chairman that emerged from the last local government elections, their names were known even before the local government elections happened. And in some instances, people were already calling them and saying, hello, chairman, we greet you. Before the elections, they were being called chairman. Yes. I mean, people who have not even contested yet. And some other persons are of the opinion that it was more of a selection, yes, and not an election.
Of course.
And the same thing appears to be recurrent even in other states across the board.
Of course.
You know, Abia State, the same thing, or your state, or your Makin, the ruling party,
Kaduna will have been applauding.
The ruling party swept the entire 23 local governments. I can go on and mention all the local government elections we have been monitoring from Atlantic Television Network. It has always been it was just, I think, Rivers State and was it Abia State also that, yes, Cross River State. River State, one political party got APP. One, not APP, got one chairmanship seat and 4 councillorship seats. Yes. And in Cross River State, of course, the local government of Senator Ababio got one. And you know the controversies that surrounded that particular election. And the fact that Senator Ababio got one, people were saying it was a settlement between him and the governor. Yes. If not, the governor would have swept all. This is what it is. Now, if you say that if elections go back to the CX, to the federal INEC, or whatever federal body that will be commissioned, if elections go back to them, that democracy will be lost.
The dividends
of democracy will be lost. Now as it stands, are people enjoying the dividends of democracy in local government elections? At what point do people appoint or select or vote for their candidates at the primaries? Let's say, okay, internal party wranglings, they can do waiver, they can do substitution, but then the party brings out a candidate.
Yes.
Well, at what point do people get to fairly campaign? At what point do the candidates get to fairly campaign? At what point were they given fair playing ground? At what point do people come out to vote during elections? You would agree with me that even during these local government elections, the turnout usually is very, 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 very poor compared to that of general elections, because people already know that what is the need of coming out to vote when they have won. So why should I bring out? Why should I go? But presidential elections, general elections, regardless of however people feel about the activities of INEC, there is still that glimmer of hope. They want to still come out because there is a chance that their own might win. So they still exercise their franchise. But in local government elections, you could say it's different.
Yes.
You could say it's different.
Yes,
and in this instance, even when people cry out that these elections were shoddy or were not done right, they have to go to electoral tribunal.
Yes.
Set up by who?
By the government, by the state government.
By the state government. How can a state governor to pretend over a matter against him? Make it make sense to me. And having brought out these challenges and issues to the table, please explain to me how the people in this instance are enjoying dividends of democracy with elections being conducted by CX.
You know, the governors are the chief executives, and by extension, they dictate what happens around their states. And those who have stronger positions, it is now, from my own point of view, it is now left for the oppositions, as we have it in Rivers State today, to now, charge and hold the government accountable. The governor in power accountable to be able to, put more pressure on him to let the local governments work. Because as it is now,
you mean local government work on the local government election work?
No, the local. Let's see what happens in local government elections. I've said it is selection.
We are dwelling on the elections now, not governance in local government.
The election itself.
So how are people enjoying the dividends of democracy when it's a selection and not an election?
Why I say that we, even the way it is now, it is less bloody. It is though there is no competition, there is no rivalry, there is the vibes. Probably
that's why it is not bloody.
The vibes that goes with politicking, because politics, I always say, is an interest-driven game. It's a game that you should come and and weigh your chances, and even try. People want to know what you are, what you can offer. People want to know the extent to which you can convince them. It is a mind-driven game. The politicians are known to play mind games to the electorate. But in this case, when it comes to state elections conducted by their different sects, those competitions, healthy rivalry is lost completely. What you see within the state or federal is because there is that healthy rivalry.
But you're saying in this instance that local government elections should still be domiciled with CX.
With reforms.
And you're saying that if it moves to federal government, that people will not enjoy the dividends of democracy. And I have pointed out to you clearly what has happened across board. In fact, the only governor in the history of Nigeria, to the best of my knowledge, that has conducted a local government elections that appear to be credible during his time was El-Rufai. Because other political parties, his party lost in that election. Other political parties, they lost some local governments.
Of course.
Other political parties, the election was more of electronic.
Yes.
It was clear, it was transparent, people were seeing it in real time. But here, I mean, across states,
what we have seen within
would you say the same thing? And so the question is, if people, the masses, are not actively involved in the election of local government chairmen, how then can you, Ifeanyi, say that the same people who were disfranchised from participating in the election or emergence of their leaders at the local government level, they are enjoying dividends of democracy? Now, on another thought, you brought in, you also periscoped the INEC and the fact that now, if it moves to federal, it also opens a larger door.
Yes.
I understand your concern from the angle of security.
Yes.
And I also understand your concern from the angle of big players at the national level who want their own candidates to emerge. Now, the thing about politics is doesn't it give it that room for that competition that is so needed at this point?
Which is what
let me give you an instance. Probably the president or the president's close friend or the president's son in this, might have an anointed that he wants to emerge at the local government level. The speaker of the Senate might have one. The House of Rep member may have one. Senators representing constituencies may have one. The governor will have one. The House of Assembly members will have their own anointed and all of that. Now, these people have their anointed, all of them running on different political platforms.
Yes.
Now, engagement has started. This is where lobbying of the people will start.
Yes.
This is where you see the same
activity.
Which is the beauty. But you're saying it's not okay. Hold on. Now, this is where internal party issues, this is where what chairmen become powerful.
Yes.
This is where the units and the words are now noticed. You understand?
Yes,
this is where governance,
because
now this is local government, this is grassroots. Now, what happens at the end of the day is that the senators representing constituencies are forced to let constituency projects trickle down, because why would I vote for anointed when you have not done anything for me in my constituency? Now, the people at the federal level will now remember that in a space of 3 years, you will need the attention of the grassroots. And after 3 years, the next year, you will still need the attention of the same grassroots, because, I mean, you want your anointed to come in, and you want to also be re-elected at the end of the day. Now, what also happens is that other political parties become meaningfully engaged. Now you see Labour Party wanting to, of course, bring in their own candidates. You see different persons of interest, vested interest coming up. So you actually see viable primaries at the party level. And whenever they have their substitutions and their waivers and somebody finally emerges, you now see other political parties also having the same. You will even see some disgruntled members, some sore losers, move over to other political parties and give them life and revive them, because now they are coming with their clout, they are coming with the blessings of whoever that is backing them. Like it or yes, this is Nigerian politics. It's peculiar in its own modus operandi. So I am looking at the concerns you have raised, and I'm looking at it from another perspective. Like, if these things are obtainable, perhaps that's where the concern of during elections proper, that's where your fear of security, ballot box snatching, killing, maiming, and all of that will take place. That is where the job of the police comes in. But before we get to that point, let us even count one. Shouldn't elections at the local government level be more keenly contested than Guba elections? Because this is where the people feel the heartbeat of the government.
Can I shock you?
Please shock me.
You know that, you see the way I've been listening keenly and
just like I've been listening keenly to you
yes.
as well. Yes.
You know, all these things you have painted is just the theoretical part of it, very beautiful and laudable. That is what politics and politicking should be. It is like a football match that shouldn't be played by one person. Politics is beautiful. I don't know why, you know, some people say politics is evil, politics is dirty, and the beauty of politics is what you, Laurentia, has laid down, which I have said. But in reality, because I am a realist, in reality, with the Nigerian setting, those things are not tenable.
What are the things that are not tenable?
The things that are not tenable is this. You have spoken laudably and how beautiful it will be for different stakeholders and different bourgeois and political shakers to have their candidates and anointed candidates. Lest I forget, there is one...
No, hold on. Let me clarify something. I am not saying, I'm not even applauding it.
I know, I'm coming
somewhere. You raised that concern, that this is why you are very skeptical about having local government elections move to the federal. You said that because now it will move away from the states and from the domain of the state governors, which means that powers that be at the federal will now have interest, and local government elections will be balkanized.
And it will be heated.
And I now asked you a question about the selection process instead of election.
Then,
hold on.
Okay.
And you having answered that one also faulted it. I said, okay, let's now go back to the federal. You have a concern around this vested interest coming in. And I said, this vested interest, when they bring in their candidates, of course the governor, the state also has vested interest as well. They will bring in their own. Won't it open up the door to that politicking at the grassroots level? Won't it open up the door to the ward and the unit having the influence that they are ordinarily supposed to have at their local government level? I am looking at having these elections at the local government level come alive, regardless of whether the power moves out of the states or it moves to the federal. But let it be that at the end of the day, when political parties at their primaries are done with their political internal wranglings and whatever it is they do, and finally they have a flag bearer, that it is not a situation where other political parties are coming out to boycott because the state governor has selected, that they don't have a fighting chance. Yes. But in this instance, because of the powers that be, and some sore losers that may go to other mushroom parties and resuscitate and revive them in order to clinch that seat. You now see a tussle going on. Won't it revive? That's my question. I am building on what you have said, and with what you have said, you're negating it. Now I'm looking at the possibility of, if it goes this way, don't you think it is more democratic than having the state governors impose their lists or their anointed on the people?
I want to puncture what you said.
Go ahead.
By now, where I was driving at is because holistically what you are looking at the end of the day, how do the rural populace test the dividends of democracy? Then that is where I started by all those vested interests, as we know them in Nigeria. If they come in with all this, well laid down political process and how it plays out to bring in candidates and all that, and monies will be flying left, right, and center, it will still, at the end of the day, stifle and deny the people the dividends of democracy.
Okay, go ahead.
Because at the end of the day, the monies that are meant for those particular local governments will be mortgaged by those people who
the powers that be.
That is where I'm coming.
Now, the same question, is it not applicable at the state level?
No, there's the state level, there are differences.
Hold on. Now, your concern is that if vested interests bring in these people and elections are done, these chairmen are bound to also, make sure that the people that brought them in make profit out of the move of installing them as chairman. Hold on. Now, in elections at the state level, who told you, Ifeanyi, that this chairman they are anointed of some vested interest?
They are.
So what makes you think that these chairmen who were anointed of certain vested interests at the state level and even at the federal level too?
Yes.
Will not protect the interests. Who told you that they will not protect what you are afraid of happening in federal is also happening at the state level?
So that leaves us where?
No, that leaves us to people enjoying the dividend of democracy. That leads us to, coming back to what I said, at the local government elections level, having a fair playing ground. If it is domiciled in the hand of one man, he that pays the piper dictates the tune. The governor appoints the chairman of OGSIEC. He is at liberty to hire and fire. What makes you think, however you reform OGSIEC, and they are still under the appointment, and they are still funded by the state government, what makes you think they will do the bidding of the person that did not install them? That's the thing.
Okay.
So now, if that is the case, Ifeanyi Chukwu, what makes you think that OGSIEC will ever get it right? Because governors are hell-bent on having their structure, especially at the grassroots level, and the grassroots level is represented by the local government, chairmen and councillors.
As an opinion molder, what I will advocate is this. My advocacy for us to, before we begin to reform and think of a way out to maximize the dividends of democracy trickling down to the local level, at the local level, is this. For me, it is at best what we are having now. Why am I saying what we are having now is because, like I said, the onus lies on those opposition political parties to begin to hold the governor accountable and play the role of opposition and not go to comatose. Like
how do you hold the governor who has immunity accountable?
There is something. I'm driving somewhere. When governors have installed their stooge at the local governments, it is now a viable opposition that makes for the governor, because from the fight and the places that those people will be mortgaged from will be limited. Other than this flamboyancy and this long group of going through the federal and all that, what we have now is still best. if the governors of the states will be, that they needed opposition. The problem we are having in Nigeria is this. Immediately an election is conducted, people begin to cross carpet for stomach infrastructure. We'll be looking for settlements. That is why in Rivers State you have APDP, you have PD, AP, APP. These are the problems. If there is viable opposition in states,
even in states that have viable opposition,
in states
that have viable opposition, and I mean there are states that have very strong, viable oppositions, yet the ruling party in the state sweeps the entire local government elections, and to date we have not heard that viable opposition was able to upturn the results of the local government elections. Tell me how many states. So it doesn't still boil down to you having a classroom theory. How do you fight a system that is set to protect itself? Elections are done. We are a loser in the election, and probably your rights were denied because you actually won, and you decide to go to election tribunal, local government election tribunal. And I asked you a question: who sets up the local government election tribunal? You answered the state government.
Yes.
Now the elections, who did it favor? The state governments. Who pays the people seated at the state election tribunal? The state government. So you are telling me the state government will pretend over a matter against itself? Make it make sense to me. However, we're moving forward. we'll look at this story.
Yes, we need to rejig the constitution.
All right.
Because local states, don't forget that it is not all cases that the federal government will win, and it is not, they will not at will remove the powers that are inherent in the constitution.
If you decide to go to a court, let's say the state tribunal, at the end of the day, you're not satisfied with the state tribunal, of course you're allowed to go to court. And in this instance, you will go to a state high court.
No, what I'm trying to say,
and I don't want to go into the issue of state high courts.
I'm talking about how the state assemblies make laws that govern the states. There are some certain rights that are inherent upon the state, given the constitutional mandate. So it is not the federal government cannot just come and pull it off without rejigging the constitution. And that is why you see the National Assembly is trying to tinker it. That's why they are not forwarding it, because it needs a lot of tinkering before that sees the light of the day.
This is a very vast topic.